For this lesson, you will be able to show that data can be described by its overall shape, center, and spread. The most common shape is called a bell curve. This is a normal distribution. If you look at this one, the bell curve is where the US population is. This is also how tests are often graded. Usually there's a large portion that are in the middle or score about average, and just a few that score really high, and just a few that score very low. This is called the bell curve. There are a few things that you should know about shape. These vocab words are cluster, which is the area where the majority of the data lies. As you can see, circled in red, most of the data is in this section, so this is a cluster. An outlier is what's in black on the other side. That is a piece of data that does not really match with the rest of the data. In between the cluster and the outlier is a space called the gap. The gap is the space between the cluster and the outliers. On a normal distribution, like a bell curve, the center is where the mean, median, and the mode all are. This is why it's called a bell curve. Spread can be calculated in many ways, but in this video, we're just going to talk about the range. The range is one way to show spread. To calculate the range, you take the top score and subtract the lowest score. So if the highest score received on a test was 98 and the lowest score was 23, as you can see, the majority of the data is in the middle, in the center, the mean, the median, and the mode. But there are maybe one or two people that scored a 23 and just one or two that scored a 98. In order to find the range, we take 98 and subtract 23. That means that there are 75 data items in our range, or our spread. Outliers can skew our data. This means that we don't really have a good picture of what's happening with our data set. An example of this is negatively skewed data. As you can see, it's mostly like a bell curve, but maybe we have an outlier that is way on that low end. That's going to make our data skewed left. If you picture this like a little animal with its tail all the way out on one side, its tail is in a negative direction, so it's skewed negatively. This is going to change the center because the mode is still going to be the number that happens the most. But since the mean is the average of our numbers, when we add everything together and then divide by a number of numbers, if we have one data item that's really low, like a 2, it's going to make our mean scoot down a lot further than where it was before. The median will also slide just a little bit. So this is skewed left because our outlier is very low. This one is positively skewed or skewed right. The little tail, as you can see, is off to the right, so that's why it's positively skewed or skewed right. This means that we have maybe one person that scored really, really high and everybody else scored sort of in the middle. That means the mean is going to shift a little bit to the right, and the median will also shift to the right. The mode is always going to be right in the center. The spread is still the same as what it was before, except that now we just have an outlier that's skewing our data. Pretty short video, but you should be able to show that data can be described by its shape, center, and spread.